In recent years, something surprising has been happening in the United States. Americans are embracing a sport that once barely registered on their radar: soccer. While it's the most popular sport globally, it long struggled to gain serious traction in the US. But now, stadiums are filling up, TV ratings are rising, and kids across the country are lacing up cleats instead of donning football pads. This shift is more than just a trend. It's a cultural transformation. But what sparked this sudden surge in popularity? Why are Americans suddenly falling in love with soccer? Let's explore this fascinating cultural shift together. Section 1. The growing presence of soccer in the US. About 4:30 minutes. One of the biggest reasons soccer is booming in the US is the rise of Major League Soccer, MLS. Just a couple of decades ago, most Americans couldn't name a single MLS team. Now, teams like LAFC, Inter Miami, and Atlanta United are drawing huge crowds, not just to stadiums, but across social media and streaming platforms. Since its founding in 1996, MLS has expanded significantly. What began with 10 teams now boasts over 30, with more on the way. Cities compete fiercely to host new teams, building massive soccer-specific stadiums, signing international superstars, and fostering passionate local fan bases. And speaking of stars, Lionel Messi joining Inter Miami in 2023 didn't just break the internet. It shattered attendance records, caused spikes in jersey sales, and pulled millions of new fans into the world of soccer. Messi's move symbolized a new era where soccer in the US is taken seriously on a global scale.
Narration, English, male, young, upbeat but informative tone. Let's rewind the clock a little. Why wasn't soccer popular in the United States for so long, even though it's the world's most popular sport? Well, it's a mix of history, culture, and timing. In the early 20th century, soccer was actually gaining traction in certain parts of the US, especially among immigrants from Europe and Latin America. But then something happened. American football and baseball took center stage. These sports weren't just pastimes, they became cultural institutions. Football had its Super Bowl, baseball had the World Series, and they offered something soccer didn't at the time: a sense of American identity. You also have to consider the way these sports fit into American lifestyles. Baseball was perfect for radio and later television. It had statistics, pauses for commercials, and larger-than-life personalities. Football brought the drama, the violence, the strategy, everything that could be marketed with fireworks and halftime shows. Meanwhile, soccer was often seen as too slow or too foreign. Another huge factor was lack of infrastructure. While kids in Brazil or Argentina were kicking balls barefoot in the streets, and European nations were funding youth academies, the US lacked a strong system to develop homegrown talent. For decades, youth soccer was mainly a suburban after-school activity, not a serious path to a professional career. There's also the issue of broadcast visibility. Before the rise of streaming services, Soccer simply wasn't on TV in the US. Major games from Europe or South America aired at awkward times, and unless you had cable with special channels, you probably wouldn't see them. Out of sight, out of mind. And let's not forget the 1994 FIFA World Cup. That was supposed to be the breakthrough. The tournament was hosted in the US, stadiums were full, enthusiasm was high, but after the final whistle, momentum fizzled. Major League Soccer launched in 1996, but struggled for years with low attendance, awkward rules like shootouts to break ties, and teams with little identity. So basically, it wasn't that Americans hated soccer, it's just that it never had a chance to fully grow. It was overshadowed, underfunded, and misunderstood. But times have changed, and fast. Today, we're witnessing something different. Soccer is no longer sitting in the backseat of American sports. In fact, it's driving its own lane. But before we get to that, we need to understand how the world's love for soccer slowly started shaping the American mindset. And a big part of that shift? You guessed it, international influence. Let's dive into that next. The global game reaches American shores, narration, English, male, young, upbeat but informative tone. So, how did the world help America finally fall in love with soccer? It didn't happen overnight. In fact, the seeds were planted decades ago, but it took globalization, technology, and a new generation to make them grow. Let's start with the most obvious change: immigration. Over the last few decades, the US has seen a growing number of immigrants from soccer-loving regions like Latin America, Africa, and Europe. These communities brought their passion, their jerseys, their chants, and their kids. And guess what? Their kids grew up playing soccer. They watched games with their families. They talked about Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo at school. Slowly, soccer began to feel less like a foreign sport and more like a shared cultural experience. Then came the rise of technology, especially streaming platforms and social media. In the early 2000s, catching a Premier League match in the US was nearly impossible. But today? You can watch matches from England, Spain, Italy, Brazil, live in HD, right from your phone. You can follow your favorite team on Instagram, debate plays on Reddit, and see highlight reel seconds after a goal is scored. In other words, soccer became accessible. Not just the games, but the lifestyle. The players. The rivalries. The culture. And with that accessibility came superstars. American audiences weren't just watching the sport, they were watching global icons. Messi, Ronaldo, Neymar, Mbappe. These athletes weren't just athletes, they were global brands, followed by millions, idolized by kids everywhere, including in the US. That celebrity factor matters a lot. Because now, soccer wasn't just about 90 minutes and a ball. It was about stories. Underdogs. Comebacks. Last-minute drama. It was everything that American sports fans already loved, just delivered with a different accent. And let's not forget the growth of Major League Soccer, MLS. At first, it was clunky and awkward, but now? It's thriving. New stadiums. New teams. International players. Stars like Thierry Henry, David Beckham, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, and now even Lionel Messi have played in the league. Having Messi in MLS wasn't just a win, it was a statement. It told the world, we're serious about soccer now. Youth development has also changed dramatically. Today, there are academies across the US grooming young talent with professional ambition. Players like Christian Pulisic, Gio Reyna, Weston McKennie, and Tim Weah are making names for themselves in Europe, and they're American. That's a big deal. So yes, the world helped shape America's view of soccer. From immigrant communities bringing the passion, to global stars making the sport irresistible, to digital media delivering the game to our fingertips, the US didn't just adopt soccer. It embraced it. And that brings us to today. The US is no longer just watching the world play. It's playing along. But what does the future hold? Let's talk about that next. What the future holds: narration, English, male, young, enthusiastic yet thoughtful. So, where do we go from here? If the past was about catching up, The future is about leading the way. For the first time in history, the United States isn't just trying to understand soccer, it's actively shaping its future. And the signs are everywhere. Let's talk about the 2026 FIFA World Cup. It's coming to North America, shared by the US, Canada, and Mexico. But make no mistake, the US will be at the heart of it. Massive stadiums, passionate crowds, and billions watching from around the globe. It's more than just a tournament, it's a moment. A moment for the US to step into the spotlight as a true soccer nation. And what makes it even more exciting? The next generation. Today's kids aren't just kicking the ball around for fun, they're growing up with big dreams. They want to be the next Pulisic, or even the next Messi, because now, that dream feels possible right here at home. Youth participation in soccer is booming. From suburban fields to inner-city turf to elite academies, the passion is spreading. And behind the scenes? There's more investment, coaching, and scouting than ever before. And let's not forget the rise of women's soccer. The US women's national team has already dominated the world for years, winning World Cups, inspiring millions, and proving that greatness has no gender. The NWSL is growing fast, and young girls across the country now grow up knowing that they belong on the pitch too, at the top level. Add to that the power of technology, data analytics, performance tracking, VR training. It's turning American soccer into a modern, high-performance engine. Clubs, colleges, and national teams are using cutting-edge tools to train smarter, play faster, and win bigger. And culturally? Soccer's finally becoming cool. It's in the music. In fashion. On TikTok. Streetwear brands are collaborating with clubs. Rappers are wearing soccer jerseys in music videos. Influencers are posting from matches. Soccer isn't just a sport now, it's a vibe. A lifestyle. A statement. And for the first time ever, the rest of the world isn't just influencing the US. The US is starting to influence global soccer culture right back. Think about that. A country once seen as an outsider in the sport is now helping to define it. So what's next? The US will host the World Cup. Its leagues will keep growing. More American players will shine on the biggest stages. More fans will chant, cheer, and cry for the game they once ignored. And maybe, just maybe, the US will win the World Cup one day. Sounds crazy? Maybe. But remember this. Every soccer giant in history started somewhere. And this? This might just be the beginning of America's greatest sporting story. Because soccer in the US isn't just a fad anymore. It's the future.